So hello from Green-Mopeds in London. So today we're following up our static review of the Vmoto VS3 with a ride review. It is April in London, and we're going to take it around a little bit, see how it goes. As we're stationary for a second, just highlight a few things that are different about this bike than any other bike. Obviously it's a three-wheeler, so it tilts, and this is the tilt lock. So enabling this stops the front end falling over. So unlike the Adir AA Cargo, which I think it's fair to say is no longer available, on the AA Cargo the whole bike tilted, whereas on this bike it is just the front end. So the rear platform stays upright, which in some respects is good, because we've actually had an inquiry about someone who was going to be using this for mobile cleaning of cars, and they were going to be filling it up with water and stuff like that. You don't want that stuff sloshing about as you go around corners or whatever. So there are reasons to have a upright back end. Essentially this bike at the front end is a Vmoto VS1. So as you can see down there, that's a VS1. It's got the front basket if you want. A lot of this stuff, including the seat, currently the batteries, is a VS1, which is Vmoto's delivery arm of Vmoto Socco, and a CPX. So I won't go too much into Vmoto versus Super Socco, but basically these days it's now just Vmoto. So lots of the bikes now turning up are called Vmoto CUX rather than Super Socco CUX and all that sort of stuff. So just read Vmoto from now on. But yeah, an awful lot of shared parts between a VS1, a CPX, and this VS3. Okay, so you'll see that if you compare this to a Super Socco CPX or Vmoto CPX. Okay, so some other obvious differences. This is quite a long bike. It's 2.2 meters long, which is over 6 foot by a good way in old money. Obviously its primary purpose is to move goods. This is actually a category called L2EU, and you can look that up. So it's not an L1E, it's not an L3E, it's L2, and that means three-wheelers, and the U means for utility purposes. There are some criteria for being an L2E. One is maximum power less than 4 kilowatts. So this is 3.2 kilowatts, and continuous power on this is 2.5 kilowatts. So a CPX was 5 kilowatts max. So obviously 3.2 is quite a long way off of that, but you're not here to do 56 miles an hour, and in fact the L2EU spec is 28 miles an hour anyway. So that is sort of enough, I would say. Another interesting difference between the Adir AA Cargo and this one is that on the AA Cargo there were 2 hub motors, one in each wheel. So that was I think 4 kilowatts, 2 kilowatts times 2. This one has a centrally mounted 3.2 kilowatt motor. Okay, so it's still, technically speaking, a hub motor, just not in the wheel. All right, so you'll see if you look underneath it, right in the middle there, there's a hub motor, and it's driving both wheels. The back end also has this platform, and even that is part of the spec in terms of what an L2EU is supposed to have. It's supposed to be 600 millimeters cubed. That's what the spec says. but Vmoto are saying up to 150 kilos of weight, including what you can put on the front end. Okay, so that's a lot of weight. You know, that's what 1 3/4 times me. So you know, you should be able to shift a lot of stuff with all of that. Well, we're still talking about sort of general stuff around the bike. So front end, say Super Socco, 16-inch front wheel, back end not, 12-inch little wheels. I wouldn't worry too much about the wheel size. Obviously, they're doing it to keep the platform low, to keep the centre of gravity low. So don't worry about that, I would say. On a CPX, it is 14-inch wheels at the back. But these are smaller, obviously no motor in them at all. Okay, so that's that. Looking around the dash, you should recognise the dash. It's basically a CPX dash. You've got your 2 batteries loaded. This is the sort of pre-production version. This is the only one in the country right now. And what's actually happening is currently this version has CPX or VS1 batteries in it. So 60 volt, 45 amp hour. And that means on the CPX, they were quoting up to sort of like 80, 90 miles. And we did know people who were getting sort of that sort of range out of it, 80 or 90 miles. But obviously this is less powerful and slower, so therefore that range should be more achievable. But that is before they bring out the production version, which is available to order, and that is a 74 volt base system. Okay, so 74, as far as I understand it, 7445 maybe, might be even 60. 7445 is obviously, actually thinking about it, that is the greatest capacity of a removable battery that we do. Okay, so what's that, about 3 kilowatt hours each battery, so 6 kilowatt hours total capacity. That's quite a lot. So in this bike, you know, if you're increasing the capacity from what was 5.6 to over 6, you're reducing the power and the speed. You should be able to last all day on a shift, certainly on a shift with this, especially whizzing around London. Okay, obviously good thing. So yeah, as we're stationary. So as you can see here, this is standard CPX stuff, master cylinders. So we've got front and rear discs. Down here, you've actually got a hand brake. Okay, so you can lock it with the brake on. Obviously the tilt lock, as I said, USB port, and then the rest is standard. You've got 3 modes. 3 modes for 28 mile an hour bikes usually means that mode 1 and 2 are sort of pointless. But you change your modes here. It has got reverse. Obviously, if you've got quite a lot of weight, then you would need that. Little USB port and ignition. So the way you get into the under the seat where the batteries are, turn that off, keep turning, and then you have an actual battery lid. We showed you this on the static review, but the battery lid is actually quite a good feature because it's obviously lockable. You need the key to open the battery lid, which means anti-theft, which is obviously a good thing these days. So that's that. The way you charge this is pretty much the same as a CPX with a couple of differences. So this has got an inbuilt charger, so you can plug a kettle lead directly into a C13 port down there. So that's one option. Other option is, as you do with the CPXs, take the batteries out, and then you've also got the charging port, which is down here. Okay, so 3 options. There's been a lot of talk now about the battery charging stations that Vmoto are bringing out, and they are going to be available in the UK. So these are the ability to charge either the Wanderer and the Hunter battery types, or these battery types, which I assume includes the 60 volt ones that are in this, not just the 74 volt ones. But that would be an option for if you say you've got a fleet and you want to you know, have some on the road going and then charge batteries in the meantime. So one of the big advantages of obviously having movable batteries, and of this bike in particular, was that the 15 amp charger that you get with it can charge a battery from flat in about 3.5 hours. And the range of the battery meant that you should be able to have a bike out on the road for about 3.5 hours. In other words, because you can ride this bike on one battery, you can be permanently riding as long as you're doing a return to base sort of roll. So whiz around, 3 hours later, come back, that other battery is now fully charged, swap, whiz around, etc., etc. Okay, so they've thought about that. And then with these battery charging stations, you could have a whole bank of batteries being charged. And this, so far as I understand it, is at a supercharging rate. I haven't got all the details on the battery charging stations yet, but if there is talk about a supercharger for these bikes, and if that's the case, if you can bring down that charging time to about 1.5 hours, then you're essentially laughing. Okay, so just around the dash, just to sort of remind everybody, 2 batteries. Obviously, it drains one and then the other, and that's because essentially it doesn't need both batteries to get the speed. That's a sort of a good advantage of Super Soccer, actually, or Vmoto. So obviously draining one, then it will drain the other. So you've got your total trip, your current trip, your total mileage, then you see amps and all that sort of stuff whizzing around. There's your mode, speed, temperature and clock. Okay. So it certainly rides differently to a standard bike because the rear end is sort of upright. You do have to get used to it, just like you had to get used to it with the Adia. Actually, there was a bit of that going on, but eventually you do. You sort of find yourself, you are conscious that you've got something behind you that doesn't want to tilt, I have to say. Okay. In terms of other things, so we've got, let's say the charging time is still 3.5 hours, but possibly improved with the supercharger that's an optional extra. We've got range of a good, I would say 70 miles, probably 90 odd, with the new batteries that are coming. Speed is 28, as I said. Power we've covered, load we've covered. Colours, any colour as long as it's white. You can obviously brand this box up. I'll do a sort of quick walk around at the end just so you can see exactly how the bike looks with the standard box on it. Because of the changes with the grant, this bike won't be on the grant. There's almost not worth the point of going through OLEV for it to end because it's ending this year. And the other sort of thing to mention about this bike in terms of pricing is that now Vmoto are directly represented in the UK. You can't buy from them, but it means there's no distributor between the importer or the manufacturer and dealers like us, which therefore means that they can be even more competitive in their pricing than others. And in reality, what that means is that this bike, without the box, is actually $4,999. Okay, so $4,999 for this bike, and then if you add the box is £500 plus VAT. Assuming you want this box, you don't have to have this box. You can have put your own on it, or go to somewhere else and get one. So $5,599 including VAT for this bike, and that's including the 2 batteries. So it's a good price, especially if you considered what it was for the Adia. The Adia's battery capacity, would it be greater now? Not sure, but it was fixed battery, less powerful, but over 12. So you can see an advantage of having a manufacturer directly represented. So what we're going to do, and this might be quite a telling test, is we're going to go up our hill. This is 1 in 7. This is 14% is listed as an achievable goal for this bike to get up, and I'm just curious as to whether it'll make it. Wow. Look at that. Right, so remember, this is without load other than me, and I'm 85 kilos, and I'm not sure it's going to get to the top. Gosh. To say that was painful. Now that is 1 in 7, 14%. It's on the spec as being achievable. I put that down to the weight of the bike. I mean, you know, how many times are you going to be going up 1 in 7 hills in London? This is the biggest hill that I know, and I thought it might be interesting when we've been riding it. But it did it, just. This is why we do these reviews. We try to make sure that you're going to make an informed decision. I don't think I ever did it with the Adir, to be fair. And the Adir was about the same power. In fact, a little bit more. 1 horsepower more. Maybe that would make all the difference. But that is... it's the first time I've done that hill, and it hasn't really made it, to be fair. But anyway. So now you know. Don't do 1 in 7 hills, especially with load, or an 85 kilo person on it. All right, so that was that. Okay, so just to give it a chance to redeem itself, this is now going over Kew Bridge. Obviously, not a 1 in 7. But, you know, this is more like the sort of terrain that you're going to use it for. And there you go. We're in a 20 limit, so we can't really go any faster anyway. It only goes up to 28, and yeah, not an issue. So maybe that is an unfair test, but it is a test that we put a lot of our bikes through. So you can understand why we did it. So essentially, in summary, 2.5 kilowatt in continuous mode, 3.2 max, which is within the spec. Oh look, an Adir AA cargo. Hopefully you can see that. So that is its competition, although as I said, not available. So L2EU, which if you look it up, is available to be ridden on a CBT. And 28 miles an hour. Currently 2 60 volt 45 amp hour batteries. The forthcoming version is going to be a 74 volt based battery, which should help in things like power or availability to power, and also even more range. 4,999 of the bike only, not on the grant. Won't be on the grant. With the box, this box, it is 5,599. That's including VAT. Range is going to be, I suspect, a good 80 odd miles, especially with the new batteries. It's a VS1 stroke CPX at the front, so parts readily available. It's obviously its own unique thing at the back. It'll be available in the 74-volt version soon. And if you have any questions about it, please feel free to contact us. If you would like to arrange for a test ride on the new model, also please feel free to contact us. It does have a tilt system, which you do have to remember to engage and disengage. The platform at the back is upright, so good for carrying sort of maybe liquid type stuff. Only available in white. And that's about it. So thanks very much.